So I want to show you a video. You may have seen this. I posted this week, and the comments and the way, and it was the first time in my life that I went, I was never very sympathetic towards Trump supporters.
Yeah.
But is this what it feels like to be a Trump supporter? Like the type of comments and the type of DMs I was getting, and folks just unfollowing. So let me play you the video, and you tell me if you get the heart of what the point of it was. And by the way, I don't even post stuff like this on Instagram. This was kind of like a one-off, So this is me and Pastor Greg Laurie. I'll play you the clip, and then you kind of tell me your thoughts.
All right.
After that debate, from my vantage point, it humanizes Trump, and it humanizes his followers. He's probably going to win in a landslide victory in November. I think then he will have a huge opportunity to hopefully take the country in a more unified direction and to hopefully implement some of this change. And so I think there's going to be an opportunity for Christians who tend to be more aligned with Trump's policies to bring the country together.
I can tell you the door was wide open to evangelicals in the White House. We had a voice. I and many other pastor friends of mine were invited to the White House a number of times. I was there quite a few times. We were able to have prayer with the president in the Oval Office. We were able to offer our opinions on issues, and we know we were listened to. I have not been invited to the White House since then, and I would gladly go.
So, what is your impression of that video?
I mean, I think it's, to me, watching you say that is really trying to be hopeful for a political posturing of the heart where Christians who are very passionate about their politics are able to, through Trump winning the presidency, potentially do some good in society. That's what I would say if I just were generalizing it and what I know of you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's also the idea that I think this is inevitable.
That he's going to win.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it was inevitable, though, before the assassination attempt.
Agreed.
Though. Yeah. I don't know. People are acting like that was a straw that broke the can. No. Once you saw Biden and him at the debate, it was like, I just think even the left is saying we need to get this dude is like now they're trying to realize what have we done. Right?
Yeah, Obama put out, there was a statement that leaked today that Obama is potentially like, you don't need to.
Bro, but I mean, if he, but you know what's interesting though? So let's just go here for a second. If you're on the left, I don't know who runs the left, right? Or the George Soros, all that kind of stuff. But like, who are the decision makers on the left that would say, let's put up an 80, 81-year-old dude who really seems like he has dementia or is close to it. Let's put him out there as for another 4 years to run America. Like, who's making that decision? Like, you got all these young, now I'm not a Democrat, but you got all these young Democrats. I mean, if you're thinking of posturing, I mean, this guy is hated by conservatives, but like Gavin Newsom, right? At least he's a young, handsome guy that looks like he could have political promise. That's what you want in politics. These are the two guys you're offering. And so who's making that decision? So I'm glad that they're actually saying, hey, we should reconsider doing this. Like that's what everyone who watched that debate is saying the same thing, unless you're delusional.
Yeah. And so my point was, I think this is inevitable.
Yeah.
And there's going to be an opportunity for Christians to be peacemakers and to try and reach across the aisle and just love people better after this happens, right? That it's not we gonna give it to the libs and like this, that it's actually like it's gonna be an opportunity for people to come together. Apparently that came off like a full-on endorsement of sorts, right? Regardless on everything I've contextually said, regardless on my open disagreements on specific policies, that is how that came off to some people. And so the type of comments I was getting was like, I can't believe it, unfollowing, Trump's going to send the country back. It's going to go back to Jim Crow days. Just very like highly emotionally charged stuff where, again, if I'm thinking about in the macro, like that situation, the way he comes out of that situation, the way it humanizes his audience, where, 2016, 2015, you got them, Trump supporters are just called a basket of deplorables openly. They're supporting an insurrectionist. He's Hitler and his supporters are Nazis. Yeah. And now you see them grieving and you see people losing people at a rally. Like, I think it does something to the psyche when you see someone and you're like, oh, okay, like it humanizes him. And so why do you think that people believe that this dude is going to be an existential threat? And do you think that there is any contribution of that towards the polarized nature of what's happening?
So that's a good loaded question. I think we have to understand when you think about politics, like what is the underlying message of the left and the right?
After the incredible success of our Bless God prayer journal, many of you guys began to ask for something that had a planner. And so we combined our Bless God prayer journal with a brand new leadership planner that jam-packs the same things from our prayer journal with a planner, goal setting, leadership meeting, and notes. With the next pages, you can see different sections right along here of this leadership planner where you can start out with actionable goals, 12 months of calendar, our original prayer journal prompts, our leadership journal with the proven problem solution framework, and of course, just free write notes. This leadership planner is based off of Matthew 25:14-30, which of course is the parable of the talents. The vision of the planner is to help you make the most of your time, talent, and treasure. Head over to blessgod.shop and get yours today. All right, I'll see you over there. Peace.
And not the message. What I mean is not like we're the law and order or we're the equity group, right? The underlying premise of politics, the underlying strategy is really fear, right? It's fear. And so it's if you're on the left and the right wins, then they're going to be white supremacists and they're going to do all these things. If you're on the right and the left win, then we're going to be a socialist country. And so as a believer, we are reacting to the strategy of the enemy, which is fear. Like we're not given a spirit of fear. So a lot of the reason why people react like that is not based on what you actually said, because what you said was hopeful. That's love hopes all things, right? That's a Christian perspective. The response to that, now you can disagree. I'm not saying you got to agree with anything, everything rules on, so everything I say, that's not even the issue. But if you're going to disagree in the spirit of what was presented, right? I think the emotional capacity and the emotional component that we have is we're really fearful. We're really afraid. And these are Christians who say they trust the Lord, but you're really afraid. I mean, at the end of the day, this is where I have a stay balanced. You used the word neutral at the beginning of this though, but I want to say what I actually am. I stay balanced. And that's not neutral, because neutral cannot do anything or not believe anything. I'm balanced. And on my show, on Kirk Kennedy's Corner, at the beginning of every episode, I put up Ephesians 5:11. Take no part in the unfruitful works of darkness, but instead expose them. I just happen to think there's darkness on both the left and the right. So I don't have a problem exposing it. And people get offended because they don't want to expose their side. These are talking about Christians. Now, I'm not talking about the world.
Sure.
Believers don't realize how much we're given into fear. We're afraid of losing some entitlement to a way of life that we think we deserve. And if we spent more time recognizing that, in all seriousness, the only thing we really deserve from God is wrath, then even if we became a socialist nation, God forbid that, but even if that happened, we would still have to honor the Lord, and it would still be better than what we deserve. So a lot of the posturing of the left was racial fear. If Trump, this is what's going to happen. And the posturing on the right was a loss of socioeconomic fear. We're going to become socialist nation, and they're going to do, and sexual and all this stuff. And it's like, well, okay, so I'm afraid of losing power, but I serve the God of power. So I think what you said, what I heard was, yeah, bro, there's an opportunity there. Now, where I would probably say I would disagree with what you said, it wasn't the heart behind what you said. I think you're more hopeful than I would be.
Okay, why are you not hopeful?
Because I don't think we're in the place. I think Christians, so that's a really deep question, but I think we've inherited, I said this to you before we started, we've inherited where we're at politically.
Okay.
And let me say what I mean really quickly. I'll say this quick because it could be a long thing. A lot of the time, the biggest era of the Black Lives Matter movement, but besides the fact that they were just terribly, I didn't agree with the majority. Only thing I agreed with was the hashtag. I understood what the phrase meant, right? Being a black man, I understood that. But I didn't follow them at all. I didn't support them at all. But the biggest era of the last 15 years of the left is to think of the America's history and racism, and thinking that slavery and racism is slavery's legacy. And it's just not. And first of all, biblically speaking, slavery was not about favoritism, or it was about decimating the second greatest commandment, right? The church, pastors, Christians believe that you cannot love your neighbor as yourself. And you can do it to the degree that it was brutal, that we call it chattel slavery. And you thought God was pleased with that, right? So the legacy of slavery and is not racism. The legacy for believers, the legacy of slavery is a low view of holiness. Like you think you can sin against people and God be okay with it. And so your view of grace drastically dropped. So grace became a lowering of the standard rather than a forgiveness for not keeping it, right? Or empowering you to do it. So we live in a culture where the consequences of this, it's not because we're not living in a culture of leftist policies. We're living in a or right wing. We're living in a culture where God, who is sovereign over this country, has said, I believe, how dare you in my name allow the most wicked things to happen, right? He told Jonah, you don't think I care about these Ninevites? And the animals, these were ungodly people, right? How dare you allow that to happen in my name and expect there to be no consequences for it? So now the legacy that we've inherited is not Black Lives Matter or white supremacy. It's Christians believe that you can not love your neighbor as yourself and God is pleased with that. So we've developed we have a high view of the doctrines of grace and a low view of the character of grace. And no one is going to heaven because they understand the doctrine of grace. They're going to hell because they didn't live the character of grace. And we don't have that. So one example was, well, I have many of these examples, but during when Trump became president, there were times if you corrected a conservative for being unloving, here's what I remember correcting Vodi Bachman for this. This is what they would say to you. They would say, yeah, you're just saying that because I don't agree with leftist policies. Like they would it's like, fam, no. 1 John 4:20 says, you cannot love God whom you haven't seen if you don't love your brother whom you have seen.
Amen.
I'm correcting you for what you're saying to you. So we've lost that. We're desensitized to the character that God is commanding us to have. And the way most of our Christianity is about interpersonal relationships. Your Christianity would be measured more by how you treat others than how much time you spent in the Word by yourself and how much you pray, right?
Sure.
So that's the culture we live in. And because we don't have a culture of like obedience to the Lord, then the next thing is fear. Now it's obedience to the political party. We don't have a culture, the Christians, I mean, where the God who is the all-powerful, we want him to give power to unregenerated people so that their power can demonstrate what we want in this world rather than be like, hey, why do I care what this politician thinks? I'm going to cry out to the Lord, and let's do that. Let's have millions of Christians cry out to the Lord twice a week, and let's watch it move. Why do we want him to give power to this person who's not a believer or who I'm trying to pretend like is that's what's happening. So when y'all hear comments, when they hear your comment, they're not processing it from the character of grace. They're processing it from the culture of fear. And that's where we're at as a Christian society. We're really afraid of this. And because we believe in the words of man and we trust unregenerate politicians to give us the things that we want more than we love brothers in the faith. Yeah. And it's sad where we are.
No, I think that's a good assessment. Hey, thank you so much for checking out the video. Comment down below and let me know what you think. And be sure to check out this video that YouTube is recommending just for you. Let me know if they nailed it. All right? I'll see you over there. Peace.